Now, let's double down on the conversation around national security and speak to our guest who is joining us virtually from his residence in Kaduna, one who needs little or no introduction regarding the state of affairs in Nigeria, served in the 9th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Shehu Sani represented Kaduna Central in the National Assembly at the 9th Senate. Senator, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Okay, I believe we're working. Okay, Senator, good morning once again. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me in your program.
Right, you appear to have some of the strongest opinions and views that have become very popular about some of the developments in the country. We're talking holistically. We've seen the events of the past few weeks, and they are quite signposting, this frequency of security or insecurity across the different parts of the country. How would you sum it up vis-a-vis the performance of the government in delivering the basic, which is the safety of lives and property of millions of Nigerians who expect that from their government?
Thank you again for having me. Well, first of all, this country in the last 10 years have been under consistent attack by terrorist groups and bandits, and specifically in northern part of Nigeria. I am conducting this interview in Kaduna. Kaduna happens to be one of the states that have suffered from this violence, bloodshed by terrorists and bandits. And part of their own strategy was to attack, kidnap people, and extort ransom. And they have been doing that in many places in the last 10 years. Now, for the Nigerian states, the options are open. First of all, we either have to bring an end to these attacks, violence by terrorist groups, or we have to learn to live with it. And the second is not an option. As a nation that has played a key role in restoring peace, order, and stability, countries like Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Congo, Nigerian security forces has a duty to do the needful to restore peace, order, and security in this country. We are a nation of 224 million people. A gang of bandits that are less than 20,000 should not hold the whole nation to ransom. And what is clear is that if the last administrations have been able to address this problem, despite hundreds of millions of dollars pumped into funding the budgetary demands of our defense and security apparatus, we couldn't have been where we are today. If you look at the statistics, Kaduna suffered most when it comes to the frequency on attack on school. Kuriga was just attacked and students, over 200 were kidnapped. But this is the same state where Bethel Baptist High School, which is just some 30 minutes from my house here, was attacked. And students were kidnapped and parents were left to pay ransom. Many of them sold their houses, went into debt, and begged to get money to rescue their loved ones. Greenfield University in Kaduna, in the outside Kaduna, was attacked. Parents have to gather money and pay over 200 million naira ransom. We have seen attack in Kidanpping, it's school of education. There was also attack in Kaduna State Polytechnic. There was also attack in Federal School of Forestry, which is also in the outside Kaduna. And the premier defense institution in Kaduna was sometimes attacked about 2 years ago, and there was some kidnappings there. But if you look at all these things here, what were the consequences of this attack? Who was arrested? Who was prosecuted? What action has the government in the past taken to address this problem? Nothing was actually done. So if you simply wait until an attack happens and people are kidnapped, and then at the end of the day you don't, because you hardly see rescue, ransom are paid and hostages are released. You're going to continue on this path for a long time. No nation should allow itself to live on this. I have confidence that we have an army that has the capacity and the ability to do what they need to do. But when a nation is facing this kind of problem, I think it's time for everyone to come together and see how we can find solution to the problem. But we are moving along this path. This was happening in Zamfara, this was happening in Kaduna, Plateau, and Benue State. There are points where even villagers have to pay levies and taxes to terrorists in order to live in peace or to access their farms. There are places where terrorists have to be invited to protect the villages from bandits. So a nation like ours needs to know nothing will matter. There will be no development, there will be no progress until we address the problem of security. And comparatively, if we're going to put this government and the last government, you can say that this government has done better than the last government. Despite what we are having in Kaduna. Because today, you can move from Kaduna to Abuja, this road. In the last 8 years, it was once a daily, because I'm not talking from Lagos, I'm not talking from Benue, I'm talking to you from Kaduna, my home. I say it's a daily thing. You have to move. Kidnapping is a daily thing. You don't even have to move 50 kilometers outside Kaduna. The moment you move less than 10 kilometers and you are in where they call Olam factory, kidnappings take place there on a daily basis and nothing happens. So people will wonder, friends of Nigeria, people who know this country will wonder, how can such a nation with a numbers of resources, with such number of people, are not able to secure their country? I know terrorism is not something you can bring an end to within 24 hours. Pakistan is still fighting, Somalia is still fighting terrorism.
You with us?
Yemen, other countries of the world.
Are you with
Yes.
us? Okay, so let's talk about your assessment. I mean, you are or you were a lawmaker. You know how these things work, and then you are also a citizen of Kaduna State, where this insecurity has been, eating deep, into the communities there. So, what is your assessment of the government's response, in a matter of insecurity happening so far? Because I see you comparing the present and the former administration. What is your assessment? Do you think the government are really doing what they need to do in order to avert these insecurity challenges?
Well, the past government and the present one are from the same political party. But I can comparatively say we are still having serious security challenges in this country. Kidnappings and killings are going on. But on comparative sense, this government has done better than the last one. And I'm not giving this interview from Port Harcourt or Asap. I'm giving this interview from Kaduna. And I know what it is. Many people who bought houses in the outskirts of Kaduna, who retired and built houses, in the last 4 to 5 years, they have to move into the center of the town. Kidnapping was on the daily basis from Kaduna to Abuja. But I know that people are still protesting and they want, because no matter how it is, even if it is being reduced by 5%, as long as there is insecurity, people are bound to raise issues. But I will say that we have left the past, but we are not there where we will see that the whole country is safe now. Because if you look at what happened in the past, in the last 8 years, from 2015 to 2023, look at the humongous amount of money budgeted for defense and then funded. At a certain time, the last president even have to circumvent the National Assembly and approve the purchases of some arms worth hundreds of millions of dollars. There are times which even the former Minister of Finance once said that apart from 99% funding for defense and security budget, sometimes the service ships go directly to the president with a note to collect money. Money has also been a problem in the past. We pumped a lot of money. Those who are complaining there will no imports. Those on the front line are complaining of lack of welfare. But these things here have a bit disappeared. So when you put it in that comparative sense, this government has done better than the last government, but it's still early to assess, because let's say we reach May and see what will happen, but comparatively they have done better.
In talking about the ebb and flow of security or insecurity in Nigeria, there's the conversation about strategy, and we've seen the Tinubu administration, for instance, hold the same position the Buhari administration held regarding the bandits in terms of negotiation. There's one other prominent voice in Kaduna who has offered his services, and I'm sure you've also heard of this probably in the news, that Shehu has offered to negotiate with the bandits to secure the release of the 200 plus students that were abducted in Kuriga. But also the government was very stern and clear while it condemns this particular attack that no ransom will be paid. So for most Nigerians, how do we secure the release of these students? Because we've never seen that commando style type of rescue when thousands of passengers were kidnapped along the Kaduna-Abuja train route, as well as many of the other kidnappings that have happened in recent times. So where do you stand on to negotiate or not to negotiate, and to find a non-kinetic approach to deal with these criminal elements who, like you said, are holding this country to ransom?
Yeah, well, the two options that are open to the Nigerian state when you are faced with this kind of hostage situations are this. The first is to locate where the hostages are in the terrorist camp, and to launch a raid to rescue the hostages. But that comes with a lot of consequences as far as the lives of the hostages are concerned. The second aspect of it is to initiate a dialogue process where the hostages can be freed through negotiation. Now, to me, I believe the midway is to negotiate but not to pay money. Because the whole essence of their attacks and abductions is to extort money from the Nigerian state. And when you pay ransom, you will save the lives of some people and endanger the lives of some. Because kidnappings in Nigeria is encouraged by the government of ransom. Now, it's difficult for the parents of these children, parents of the students, and anyone who has his own loved one in the hands of a terrorist to say they shouldn't pay ransom. Because all people want is to see their loved ones free, and whatever it will take, any payment of ransom. But first of all, a law has criminalized the payment of ransom. But for all the abductions that have taken place, I can say that almost 99% of it was secure. The freedom of the hostage was still to payment of ransom. So the options are open. If Shehu has offered himself to negotiate, I think the government can engage with a caveat that whatever is going to come out of that, money will not at all be used to secure their release. If you make other demands like amnesty, like giving them the rights to move and do their whatever they want to do in terms of non-violence, well, it is fine, but not with parting, because we must draw a line in this country that ransom must not be paid, and then when you don't pay ransom, this kidnapping will come to an end, because it's all about money. So we can adopt the principle of negotiation, but we should not part with huge sum of money, because when you do that, from Kaduna to Abuja, from Kaduna to Birmingham, you have villages like Kuru, you have Kurigawa, you have Kuriga, you have Kidanpping, whatever it is, and then you have Birmingham. Now, if you pay ransom to rescue those of Kuriga, there are other villages along that path that will also be subjects of attacks. So I think it's better to prevent terrorism than to kidnappings, than to find ourselves in this kind of corner.
All right, Senator, let's talk about ways of preventing. Are you with us? Let's talk about now the ways, to prevent this from happening. I mean, in your own view, how do you think, the Nigerian government, the people, stakeholders, security agencies are supposed to take a concrete step, towards making sure that, we eradicate this insecurity happening in the country? What are the concrete steps that should be taken?
Well, there are 2 to 3 ways to which we can prevent this kind of abductions and kidnappings and terror attacks in the areas. First of all, we know very well that almost 80% of terror attacks presently happen in rural areas. In the past 9 years, it has been bombing in the cities by Boko Haram and other terror groups. Bombing in schools, bombing in street, bombing in motor parks and what. But now it's the rural areas. Now, the first thing we need to do is to recruit agents in all these villages. Agents that will supply information and handsomely reward them for any information which they are going to give. Because people in the villages know every nook and cranny. They know the savannah, they know the shrubs, they know the rocks, and they know their terrain very well. So we need to recruit a lot of them and train them, because terrorists now also recruit them and they pay them for information. And then secondly, if we are not going to have a state police as others were recommending, there should be recruitment of young people from rural areas into our security apparatus, either in civil defense or in police, and deploying them back to their village to work. And that will be a significant security accomplishment which we have. The third is the use of technology. I still wonder how in the 21st century it's possible for terrorists to move over 200 students without being detected using satellite navigation system, which we have spent hundreds of millions of dollars. Can you kidnap any person in the United States? Can you kidnap him in Brazil or Argentina and he's not seen? Don't even go far. Why is there no kidnapping in Benin Republic? Why is there no kidnapping in Germany? Why is there no kidnapping in Chad? Why is it not in Germany? Why must it always be in Nigeria? These are our neighbors. We're supposed to have seen an epidemic or a contagion of kidnapping along this West African coast, but it's only in Nigeria. And it tells much about our security forces, our governance system, and our attitude to security as a people. So this is a fact that we have to deal with.
Right. And Senator, in winding down the conversation, let's talk about the political position of President Bola Tinubu, because then candidate promised, and for some people they say he even oversimplified what the solution was when he suggested that we could recruit 50,000 more youths, and pay them a particular fee to get the job done, to guarantee security, to boost the security architecture. And for most people, so far we've not seen much of that, even though there are ongoing recruitment exercises across the various security agencies. But also, there is another element to this conversation, and the presidency seems to be suggesting that the people who are unhappy with the administration and its policies are the ones who are operating with this subterfuge to worsen the situation, to give a dog the bad name so that they can hang it. What is your take on the politicization of this security question? Because this insecurity has survived a PDP administration under Goodluck Jonathan. It has survived the Buhari administration on the platform of the APC, and the current Tinubu administration still on the platform of the APC.
Well, what we need to understand is that as a politician, when you are struggling for power, you will be on the flat platform with a template of solutions to all the problems. You behave, act, and speak like a magician who has a magic wand to solve all the problems of this country. Now, by the time you are on the seat, now you will be faced with the reality of the situation as it is on the ground. And this is what happened. When Buhari was campaigning in 2014, he has seen all the fault with Jonathan, and he has a package of solution to nation's security, nation's economic, the economy and everything. And by the time he spent 8 years, what came out of him is that Nigeria is a complex country, that you can't solve the problem. Now the same thing with President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. He and the campaign had solutions to all problems. And then at the end of the day, he is now faced with that reality. And I think it is also a note that for people to know that this messianic posture of the Nigerian political class, each time they are struggling for power, is something people should hold with reservations each time they are voting. Now, that is it. Now, as for the assertion that there are political forces behind these kidnappings, I don't think that is correct, because this terrorism and banditry has survived almost about 3 governments, and it is still on. And I have heard the president sometimes said he will not waste his time blaming the past, and that he'll be focused on what he needs to do. And I think that should be the case. I mean, if there are political forces that are behind this, they should be seen as part of the problem, and the solutions should be sought for it. Our people want stability, they want peace, they want order, and we can never achieve any any economic progress in the nations where people are being kidnapped and ransom are paid in hundreds of millions. So it is said that by Franz Fanon, every generation must, at a relative obscurity, discover its mission. It's either fulfill it or betray it. The challenges we face today are the challenges of our own era, our time. The one the government is facing today is the challenges it has to face as a nation, as a constituted authority, and it must find solutions to it. When people are voted into office, they are voted to solve problems, not to lament about problems, not to discuss problems, not to converse about problems. It's to solve problems, and that's why they are elected, and they should be able to do that.
Note, we're going to have to end the conversation here for now. Senator, as always, thank you most kindly for your invaluable time and for joining us on this particular conversation. Really appreciate you for taking the time.
Thank you.
That is our conversation with Senator Shehu Sani on the state of security or insecurity in Nigeria regarding some of the developments that we've seen so far and how it is shaping the polity. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at some select national dailies to bring you up to speed with the stories making the headlines. Join us again.